the Mikazuchi clan, another clan of assassins that is known for their unequaled godlike speed. Their attacks and maneuvers exhibit momentum that are practically invisible to the naked eye. For centuries, the Mikazuchi clan has passed on this inhuman ability, the ability to be able to not only be as fast as lightning, but to be lightning itself. Before they achieve such magnificent ability, one must endure the rite of succession. The rite of succession is somewhat similar to the passing of the Nico-style secret technique, Demonsbane. For 9 straight days of vigorous training without sleep or rest, the practitioner must endure extreme hunger, thirst, fatigue, dehydration, and exhaustion. Depriving the body of rest results in major cognitive deficits and false perceptions. But having trained and prepared for any threats or impending death, the practitioner has prepared himself to allow the lightning god dwell within him, to be able to throw oneself into the state of oneness, the state in which a person experiences consciousness in its true form, casting aside technique, physicality, and perception, as one must enter and be one with darkness and trigger the state of survival, where the body and mind totally becomes one and lets them unleash their full physical potential, enhancing instinct and reflexes to maximum output. The Mikazuchi clan's fighting style, the Raishin style or lightning spirit style, the assassination fist, which is apparently created by the kami of Kashima, the god of thunder himself, Takemikazuchi no Kame, where the most notable user of the Raishin style is Mikazuchi Rei. However, similar to the Kure clan, the Raishin style removes the brain's limiters, but in the aspect of speed, yet requires distinctive bodily physique, in which only the bloodline of the Mikazuchi can possess the secret technique. But since they do not practice artificial breeding process, the use of the Raishin style is restricted, since the use of the technique demands great physical stress to the human body, especially to the lower extremities. In order to somehow make up for this, the Mikazuchi clan undergoes training as early as they learn to walk and prioritize in strengthening the legs. Nevertheless, the Raishin style is an assassination technique in which it is most effective while wielding bladed weaponry and kill the opponent with minimal effort instantaneously. It can be said that the strikes of the Raishin style cannot be compared to the devastating force and lethality of the Kure techniques. Yet, their speed far surpasses that of the Kure clan, as the Raishin style focuses on speed rather than power. It adapted into utilizing the bare hands to be used as killing weapons and land immediate fatal blows to the opponent's vital points with extreme precision and hyper speed. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. The Raishin style techniques: dream walking, a footwork which is similar to the Nico style's flash fire, which also confuses the opponent by rendering multiple copies of themselves. A Raishin style footwork created by Mikazuchi Sei that creates after images of the user. This technique is required to discombobulate the opponent until the user executes the finishing move. Lightning Flash, the traditional form of Raishin style technique, which is also the fastest. A direct and linear frontal strike executed with extreme velocity, which inevitably defeats the opponent's reaction time. This technique, however, forces the lower extremities to their utmost limits, as the user does not use any protective footwear. This technique also causes severe dehydration, which leads to side effects such as trembling and blurred vision. Since the technique is linear and relies heavily on speed, the technique is possible to be opposed by someone who knows its weakness. Sunfire, a technique that delivers direct and non-identical form of strikes, which hits the opponent's vital points. These strikes do lack power, but are extremely fast and precise, enough to inflict damage and injury that may render the opponent immobilized. Thunderclap, similar to Sunfire, this technique bombards the opponent with an assault of ever-changing strikes, which also targets the opponent's vital points, but with much aggressive combos and unending chain of strikes up until the opponent falls to the ground. Fajin, the armor-piercing, permeating force, a focus of force in an attack in which the strike discharges power explosively, a technique that inflicts a thunderous strike that penetrates the opponent's defense, where the force reaches inside the vulnerable part of the body, similar to Lu Dongcheng's Fajin and Ryuki's soft strike technique, which delivers devastating force in the same manner. Chi molding, a Raishin-style kata that apparently originated in China, a concentration technique that balances the user's vital force or chi, where its utilization helps to clear the user's mind from any unnecessary distractions, thus boosting focus. Although the Raishin-style techniques and maneuvers are undeniably extremely fast and precise, that normal eyesight cannot even follow its movements. Their attacks are linear and predictable, and if used against extremely proficient combatants who possess the highest form of foresight, the Raishin style is deemed ineffective. Or is it? The Mikazuchi clan is in fact known to be the rival of the Kure clan and have fought against each other in countless battles, as it was said that Mikazuchi Bio is far more faster than Mikazuchi Rei. Besides, since Mikazuchi Rei swore to never kill again, it can be said that his Raishin style evolved into a softer, non-killing Raishin style. Nonetheless, the information regarding the history of the Mikazuchi clan and Raishin style is awfully restricted. Its true lethality and effectiveness is still a mystery and incomplete. And if the Mikazuchi clan had ever fought both the mainline Wu clan and the westward faction. I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and to all of you who supports my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Kaneda Suekichi, the giant killer, an unassuming man with great perseverance and unexpected confidence, with an unquenching thirst for strength. An average human being, born with a weak and frail body, is considered to be incapable of combat. But Kaneda is different. Instead of accepting on how he was born, he forged his weak body and honed his skills and abilities. His tenacity and determination empowered him to be able to be enlisted in the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, a competition which only the strongest are allowed to engage, allowing him to reach the domain of superhumans. All the while, he keeps his eyes closed while being very cautious and vigilant, for his stance allows him to observe his opponent as he defends in a forward stance. Kaneda has the ability to analyze his opponent's speed, power, and maneuvers, but with the risk of suffering certain damage. Yet, once he opens his eyes and finishes analyzing, the opponent will have difficulty landing his blows or evade from his attacks. Even as vulnerable as Kaneda is, his durability can hold out against an assault of heavy blows, and can even respond with a counter while being bombarded with strikes. The reason behind this is that Kaneda can shift the damage and point of impact of his opponent's strikes, allowing him to endure a great deal of punishment and considerable amount of damage, thus letting him continually focus in opposing his opponent's strikes. His fighting style, the Kujin style or Kujin Ryu, a form of combat that is similar in definition as Kyushin Ryu. Kyushin Ryu is a form of martial art consisting of striking, throwing, and grappling techniques, developed by the samurai warriors in feudal Japan to dispose of armored threats using only bare-handed techniques. Hence, the Kujin style has Kaisha Kenjutsu as its focus or base, as Kenjutsu means methods, techniques, the art of Japanese sword, or the art of warfare. Kaisha Kenjutsu is a hand-to-hand combat art used among heavily armored samurai warriors, as their combat often ended in utilizing grappling skills to finish off their opponent in a very limited amount of time. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. Kaneda's Kujin style techniques, the falling bucket. By timing and evading his opponent's strike, the user grabs the opponent's chin or face, turning and propelling the opponent's head brutally with a vicious downward force, smashing the head onto the ground destructively. Lever throw, a technique where the user grabs the opponent's striking arm, turning it into an arm lock. The user then forces the opponent onto the ground while holding on to the arm, as he savagely breaks the opponent's arm by hyperextending the joint, thus dislocating the opponent's elbow with no second thoughts. Crescent scythe, a form of backsweep which is commonly used in other martial arts, oftenly used to disrupt the opponent's balance or bring the opponent down to the ground, making an opening for the user and execute a ground attack, overturning heaven and earth. Once the opponent strikes according to his prediction, the user grabs the opponent's striking limb and uses that attack's momentum to violently throw the opponent to the ground with devastating force. By holding onto the striking arm, the user is able to follow up another grappling move. Stance of Yin-Yang intersection, a stance intended with the user's research, calculation, and knowledge of the opponent's tactics and maneuvers, where the user is able to use his predictive reading to the fullest degree by using the raised elbow to strike or as a subterfuge, leading the user to manipulate the opponent to strike him as intended. This allows the user to evade the opponent's strikes even more precisely and utilize dirty tactics such as eye pokes, eventually leading the opponent for another grappling move. Foresight, Kaneda's ability of incredible prediction. By using the knowledge according to how he observed his opponent in real time, his foresight ability allows him to precisely predict his opponent's maneuvers at an amazing 7 moves ahead, allowing him to find the flaws of the opponent and exploit them. However, Kaneda can be said to be classified as the weakest combatant in the Kengan Association, but not everyone is willing to risk and endure the opponent's powerful strikes intentionally, up until his analysis of his opponent is complete. This uses concentration and focus of great proportions, along with insurmountable amount of pain, leading him to resort into using painkillers and neural blockade medications. Anyhow, Kaneda, being small in stature, lighter, and weaker as a person, became a gigantic feral battle cat in the eyes of his opponent, as he was able to defeat a highly skilled combatant and bring out the full potential of an even more powerful opponent. Kaneda might be vulnerable and may not be a great fighter, but is a master of perception and observance, and can be said to outclass the other combatants with his supreme intelligence, truly making him a superhuman analytical combat tactician. I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And to all of you who supports my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
I am the king. I am the king.
The known reigning supreme king of the purgatory, Lolong Donaire. He became a legendary martial arts instructor of the Philippine military. At the age of 24, Lolong fought the great and young Kuroki Gensai and was said to have their strengths as equal. He became a pioneer of the purgatory since then and had never lost a match. Until now, he fought a new and improved Oma Tukita, the fighter who was gifted a brand new heart and has integrated his Nico style with the dreadful Kure techniques. Lolong's prime fighting style is known as Silat, which is the same fighting style as Misasa. The traditional Silat is a martial art form that focuses on the nature of self-defense and survival, but with lethality that is designed with the intent to kill. Misasa's fighting style looks very similar to Silat Betawi, the same type of Silat that was used in the Raid franchise, a traditional type of Silat that focuses on grappling, blocking, or striking with the elbow, while Lolong's stance and fighting style seems a lot closer to Silat Gayong, a type of Silat which incorporates strikes, grabs, joint manipulation, and weaponry, where it can be said that Lolong is an expert of Silat itself, as he proficiently exhibits various forms of the martial art that tremendously boosts the diversity of his combat arsenal. However, Lolong and Misasa's forms and methods may be different. The essence is one and the same, as it utilizes the elbows, the hardest, strongest, and sharpest part of the human body, an effective and extremely powerful human weapon, and if used by proficient specialists such as Misasa and Lolong, the elbow strike has the ability to slice open, split the skin, or even break and crush bones, as Silat focuses on strength, agility, flexibility, and precision while executing various combat techniques of the system. But since the elbow's effective striking distance is very limited, Lolong specialized in ultra-close combat range, which is too goddamn close. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. The elbow strike delivers a wide range of blows in all directions and defends against incoming attacks and clears barriers, while Lolong's evasive maneuvers are absolute, as he is able to use an ability of anticipating the opponent's attack and movements before the motion even begins. Lolong's passive ability, the pre-initiative, the prediction of inception of intent, which also gives him the upper hand to land his blows, thus defeating the opponent's proficiency of evasion. As for striking, in addition to Lolong's devastating and lightning-fast strikes, Lolong has two striking methods of maximizing the force of his blows. One is by instead of turning his hips, he rotates his shoulder blades to bring more power to his strikes. This keeps his core steady while improving precision and exploiting minimum attack distance. And another is by utilizing the flexibility and extending of his shoulder blades to maximize his attack's effective range, while maintaining the strike's catastrophic power. His stance was notably similar to the Harimau stance or Tiger stance, which involves crouching and rushing in below the opponent's punches. In Filipino silat, it is common for the user to use his foot to trap the opponent's foot while controlling the opponent's head and arm to then spin the opponent in a circle. The opponent's body rotates in a full 360 degrees, but his knee and foot remains in place, causing severe injury or dislocation. Not only does Lolong's normal attacks boast superior damage output, its speed equals that of Gaolang's signature boxing flicker jab technique, Flash, as his strikes were so powerful to be able to bring down someone as colossal as Towa Mudo, while also specializing in acupressure points as Muteba Gizenga, for there are other types of silat that primarily focuses on nerve attacks. As to why Lolong has the ability to exploit his opponent's weak points, combining these expertise for that moment to execute joint manipulation and dislocation. Lolong's only special technique and finishing maneuver, the invisible elbow, an onslaught of elbow strikes of extreme power and speed, which likely multiplies the elbow's slashing capacity, since the strike is performed by hiding the attacking limb from the opponent, placing it in the opponent's blind spot. This makes it difficult or invisible to the naked eye, as the opponent is overwhelmed with its speed and lethal laceration, a berserker barrage that leaves serious deep contusions to the opponent. Even though Lolong is struck with almost devastating fully unleashed advanced powered strikes and a gut-wrenching ground throw, he was still able to immediately rise and recover and continue the fight without showing much of any exhaustion or prominent damage, making his stamina and durability superhuman level, as he does not possess any damage-deflecting techniques, and was still able to assault and land blows to his opponent, confirming that Lolong Donaire's power and statistics are undeniably exceptional, for he resorts in his silat skills and abilities only, as he does not possess any special or inhuman techniques or abilities, and still was questionably above the likes of Alan Wu, Lu Shan, and Fei Wangfang, who are powerful divine demon user and Gihun experts, and is able to go toe-to-toe with someone as Oma Tokita, who can now only use the advance in short bursts, who was previously defeated by Kuroki Gensai, whose power is said to be equal to Lolong Donaire, which bears the question whether Oma or Ryan is now more powerful than Kuroki, or why Lolong was defeated with only a well-timed flashing steel smash, a fast but highly predictable linear attack. Anyhow, as the rules of the Purgatory applies to the real world of combat sports, Lolong Donaire, the pioneer of the Purgatory matches, a combatant with immense combat skills and experiences, gifted with the ability to meticulously identify or distinguish a combatant's strengths and weaknesses. The King, Lolong Donaire, truly is and will remain as the monster of Manila.
I am the king and will not be. I
hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And to all of you who supports my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. In the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, there is a combatant who's the heaviest and biggest of them all, known as the Destroyer, from the Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal, currently weighing around a whopping 335 kilograms at 7 foot 11 inches. The cyborg of the savannah, Kanoh Haruo, a combatant that is larger than Julius Reinhold or even the Purgatory's Towa Mudo. But unlike Towa and Julius, Haruo, even in his overweight form, can jump and somersault into the air at an incredible height and land perfectly on his feet, as his joints can handle his massive overall mass and can move at an astounding speed that is able to match Akoya Seishu's quick movements. In his tribe in the Himalayas, he was their greatest and strongest warrior. His name was once Haruo, weighing at 348 pounds of pure muscle mass. His durability can tolerate repetitive brutal blows, such as Akoya Seishu's savage, murderous strikes, where Akoya lost control and had the intent to kill, and survived Ranjo's fatal sword stab. His attack strength, which is multiplied by his incredible speed, can hurl his opponent away with violent thrust and great force with ease. Kanoh Haruo reminds me of a famous actor and a martial artist, the great Sammo Hung, who exhibits speed, power, and flexibility with his lightning-fast kicks, drop kicks, strikes, and somersaults, disregarding his overweight state. As Kanoh Haruo was the most powerful warrior of his tribe, he was also the most powerful amongst the Gurkhas. The Gurkhas are fearless warriors and are not afraid of death. They are said to be the toughest and most ferocious soldiers in the world, where the sharpest and most vigorous men undergo strict selection process, and only the best individuals are selected. The Gurkhas are known to have fearlessly battled in virtually every military campaign. Their fierceness was proven when two Gurkhas single-handedly defeated their enemies. One was able to kill 200 Japanese soldiers with only a single arm, and another that killed 30 Talibans as he was defending his post. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. Kanoh Haruo's techniques: the bear killer, an overhand punch, but more like an overhand slap. This orthodox punch, which is designed against taller opponents, which relies on the body weight of the user, and with Haruo's colossal weight, the power of this technique is therefore multiplied, dealing a devastating and thunderous damage to the opponent. The overhand punch is a hybrid of the straight and hook punch, whereas the striking arm circles above the opponent. The user drops his body, thus increasing the momentum of the strike, resulting in an instant knockout. Extreme Metabolic Rate, a unique technique where Haruo goes into a trance that extraordinarily increases his body's metabolism at an alarming rate. This forces his body to greatly escalate its temperature, which burns excessive calories and fat. This technique tremendously augments his overall strength, endurance, and speed. During this state, Haruo was already overpowering his opponent, but given the damage to his knee and the burden of his massive weight, he wasn't able to finish off his opponent. However, Haruo either would have won or died at the hands of Akoya's murderous intent. Anyhow, this gives you the idea how powerful Haruo really is, how fast and strong his strikes could have been, if only he did not let himself go and gave in to the addicting, voracious lifestyle that this asshole gave him. As being the most powerful and bravest Gurkha of his tribe, Haruo could have been one of the strongest fighters of the Kengan Association. I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And to all of you who supports my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. A proficient silent slayer, the manhunter, the blind mercenary, the genocider, with an insatiable or excessive sexual appetite, Muteba Gizenga, where his expertise is to target the body's most vital areas in the most death-dealing but efficient manner while using the slightest body movement possible. His durability withstood even that of the other Nico's attacks, that he didn't even show any signs of injuries. Muteba may not be an accomplished martial art user. He does, however, utilizes his extensive battlefield experiences. As brutal as the conditions of a battlefield were, the carnage was incomprehensible, where soldiers lived through the days of hunger, thirst, danger, terror, and impending death. These experiences enable one to adapt and survive. Mercenaries are known as the soldiers of fortune, usually a private individual with previous military experiences that are no longer part of any official military services. Contractors who take part in armed conflicts, security assignments, or act as military advisors, whose incentive is to act for personal gain with a much higher profit. These private military forces possesses battle backgrounds where they spent a significant period of time in combat in a hostile battlefield. They come from different branches of military services, such as the Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, or Special Forces. Even though he lost his sight during his time in the Ivorian Civil War, this enhanced his other senses, converting them into super sensors, hearing, smell, touch, as well as the possibility of enhanced cognitive functions. This enabled him to adapt and counter any unfamiliar combat moves or martial art efficiently. As the arena is loud and full of unnecessary noise, this proves that his senses are of inhuman proportions, for he can lock and focus on the vibrations and movements of the opponent, as well as their overall status, weapons, and gear. Muteba will use any possible means to incapacitate his opponent, such as eye gouging, ear gouging, throat gouging, and fatal testicular devastation. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. Muteba eventually fought and won against Sakabayashi, but lost his sense of hearing as Sakabayashi used the ear gouge against him. Nonetheless, Muteba gained an upgrade by equipping him with the state-of-the-art artificial eye implants inspired by the Predator's visual technology. This enabled him to see the opponent's vibrations and infrared spectrum, while this implant gave him 5 optional modes of visual enhancements. Being the silent killer as he is, he has an extensive knowledge of the Chinese acupuncture arts, where nerves, muscles, and vital points are involved. He is also a proficient user of the Chinese assassination techniques, as he was able to use the art to release himself from Wakatsuki's crushing hold. His known technique, the heart jab, an ancient technique of the Chinese assassination art, where the user forcefully inserts his fingers like a spear hand between the opponent's ribcage, tapping the heart with even the slightest touch to disrupt the heart's normal palpitation. This causes the heart to stop beating, and subdue the opponent without leaving any traces or evidence, making it appear a natural death. As dangerous a mercenary Muteba is, he will not kill without reason. He will not sacrifice his life unnecessarily, nor will he fight to the death, and will prioritize his survival above all else. Nonetheless, the skills and abilities that he possesses are inhuman, yet may not be that compatible in a fighting tournament, but he is more accustomed in the battlefield, where he may prove to be more treacherous. For in the world of the blind, Muteba Gizenga is king. I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And to all of you who supports my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. An underground fighting student, the genius fighting prodigy, the king of stranglers, Imai Cosmo. His sense for combat is unmatched, even if he is light and small in stature, as he can wrestle his opponent into submission, unconsciousness, or if he wanted to, death. Even large opponents who weighs more heavier than him, for he is fast and agile, and releases swift combos and heavy strikes. He shifts his body weight at one point at a time, as footwork is of prime importance to be able to move around, not only to dodge the blows of the opponent, but to utilize the body to generate the power to strike, or even to hold down the opponent to deplete his stamina. His durability can withstand the opponent's direct and powerful strikes, and can even endure Akoya Seishu's unbearable torture, where both of his arms were ruptured, his flesh torn off and chewed, causing him serious blood loss. His ribs snapped one by one, and still was able to rise and continue the fight. Whenever he is in the brink of defeat, he brushes his hair back and gives off an intense expression. This somehow enhances his reaction speed and fighting ability, thus allowing him to fight vigorously. Cosmo may be overwhelmed by the opponent's powerful, bone-breaking strikes in an upright striking match. Nevertheless, as for his combat ability, he is formidable when it comes to grappling. As blows to the body may hurt, grappling is excruciating, for his fighting style is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, one of the most deadly martial arts in the world, which is presently used in the military and law enforcement. This martial art grants weaker and smaller individuals the ability to defend themselves against stronger, bigger, and heavier opponents by knocking them off balance. This forces the opponent to be taken down to the ground, where the martial arts techniques are focused on ground combat and submission holds, gaining the dominant position to force the opponent to concede, while Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is greatly used in mixed martial arts, which primarily focuses on techniques of chokeholds and joint locks, but still involves striking and kicking techniques, which are powerful enough as a finishing blow. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. Cosmo's known techniques: armbar, the most commonly used submission hold due to its effectiveness and simplicity, while holding the opponent's arm and using the hips as leverage, and legs preventing the opponent from any movement by reversely bending the user's body. This move is designed to break the opponent's arm by the elbow joint by extending the arm beyond the joint's limits. Sleeper chokehold, a variation of the rear naked choke, but with a much tighter squeeze, by positioning the hand to the shoulder, applying more pressure to the opponent's neck, and by locking both the user's legs to the opponent's body. This makes it more difficult to escape the hold much further. This move is designed to strangle the opponent, stopping both air and blood supply from circulation, thus causing the opponent to sleep or even cause death. Triangle chokehold, where the user wraps both of his legs to the opponent's neck while holding the opponent's arm by the chest. Submission hold that uses the opponent's arm and the user's leg by pressing them together. This strangles the opponent by also cutting off the blood and air circulation to the brain, causing the opponent to pass out or die. Guillotine chokehold, as the name implies. This blood choke is similar to being hung by the neck. This again cuts off the circulation of both air and blood to the brain by also wrapping and blocking both of the user's legs around the opponent's body and trapping one of the opponent's arms. This limits the opponent's options to either try to escape, strike, or surrender. If the opponent fails to submit, this move will cause unconsciousness or death. Zone, a unique technique owned by Cosmo. This technique exploits the moment that the opponent is focused on striking. The instant that the opponent is in that moment, Cosmo immediately proceeds to counter the attack with an inevitable submission hold. Foresight, a technique that predicts the opponent's actions by 2 moves ahead. This technique, in combination with Cosmo's prodigious reflexes and zone, can counter any technique by the opponent, which renders him undefeatable. This technique, however, is only effective with familiar moves already exhibited by the opponent. If the opponent uses an unfamiliar technique, this slows down Cosmo's reflexes and leaves Cosmo vulnerable. Even so, this technique is far from being perfected and may be developed further. Cosmo will fight fairly and use his fighting style accordingly, but he can also resort to morbid tactics, as he may bite the opponent's flesh, break the opponent's finger, or even grab the opponent's balls, as he will not hesitate to use any practical way to defeat his opponent, and especially opponents that are most treacherous. Cosmo may be frightened and intimidated by his opponents, yet none may break his will, for he is
the King of Stranglers! Cosmo Imai!
I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And to all of you who supports my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. A hot-blooded punk with no self-control, the Howling Wolf, the Howling Fighting Spirit, Yoroizuka Saw Paing, a unique Burmese kamikaze combatant with indestructible skeleton. His bones are so dense that enables him to flex his muscles to full extent. This allows him to execute powerful strikes without the fear of fractures or dislocations, giving him the ability to strike at his full strength and capacity with no repercussions. Even his skull is unbreakable, as he trained his skull to be as strong as steel to protect his brain from any forceful damage, and is noted to be the strongest skull of humanity. Yoroizuka's rigid skeletal system serves as both powerful offense and a formidable defense that repels attacks to such an extent as the question of why his bones are incredibly sturdy is the result of constant repetitive damage and repair of his bones. This is due to intense training and practice of his martial art, the martial art that causes the human body to adapt to a brutal bone fracturing environment. And his martial art is none other than Lethwei, the art of 9 limbs, usually mistaken as Muay Thai. Lethwei is a martial art that can be considered to be more brutal, for it emphasizes knockouts to claim victory. Lethwei is the bloodiest martial art, as headbutts are allowed. and is one of his primary attacks. As the combatant clinches his opponent, the headbutt is his main weapon, otherwise known as Burmese boxing or Burmese bare knuckle, which originated from Myanmar, is a full-contact blood sport where combatants only wear hand wraps, as it requires them to fight with only their bare hands, while fighters are allowed to strike with their head, fists, elbows, knees, and feet. Fighters must attack and defend against various gut-wrenching kicks and foot thrusts, concussive strikes, breaking knuckle shots, and devastating skull-cracking headbutts. Combined with Yoroizuka's skeletal rigidity, this martial art became more deadly, which doubled his durability that can withstand powerful yet fatal blows. Yoroizuka's indestructible skeleton was the inspiration of Gao Lang's ultimate technique, God Blow. His ultimate technique, the Hammer of Burma, where he arches his back as he pulls his head backwards to such an extent to execute a powerful headbutt, a destructive yet devastating counterattack. This technique has the force that is powerful enough to shatter the cemented ground of the arena, which gives you the idea of how much force Yoroizuka can expel and how indestructible his skull is, proving that he is resistant to concussions. Even though Mikazuchi was able to counter the Hammer of Burma that caused Saw Paing great damage, Saw Paing was still able to follow up powerful strikes and was even able to grapple his opponent and continue the fight. In my opinion, Mikazuchi's skull should have cracked first, as he countered this technique with his head. He took on the full brunt of the impact, as Saw Paing's indestructible chin should have damaged his skull, given that amount of power. It took Saw Paing 2 powerful direct strikes to the jaw with the help of his own force to bring him down. Yoroizuka can be said to be superhuman, as his strikes are solid, destructive, and razor sharp. He can overwhelm his opponent with an assault of strong and heavy combos. His downward elbow strike can even pierce through the opponent's thick muscle and flesh and dislocate the opponent's spine, dealing a fatality to the opponent. His superior resilience can withstand even a powerful blow that can take down a monstrous giant of the sea, even enduring the fatal Raishin-style assassination technique twice, disregarding any exploits in his vital points. However, if only given the chance, with his unique abilities, resilience, and brutal fighting style, Saw Paing could have been a valuable addition to the Kengan Association fighters against the Purgatory combatants. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. The man, born a monster, the wild tiger, known for his ferocity and wild combo rushes, the Kengan competitor with the highest wins amongst other fighters, Wakatsuki Takeshi, the only combatant who was able to defeat the monster, the colossal German of pure brute force, Julius Reinhold. This is because Wakatsuki was born with a unique condition that allows him to exceed the limits of a normal human. It was said to be a rare case of Superman syndrome. Nevertheless, the Superman syndrome instead causes abnormalities, low muscle tone, muscle weakness, and disabilities. Therefore, this type of condition is due to being born so jacked as myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy, where a certain human is born with exceedingly dense muscle fibers, 52 times than that of an average human, a condition characterized by an abnormal increase in muscle size mass, and strength with reduced body fat percentage, a rare genetic mutation that causes rapid, uncontrolled muscle growth. Not even the Kuroki clan can come close to his muscles alone, which became Wakatsuki's advantage over his opponents. And unlike Julius Reinhold's steroid-induced muscle hypertrophy, strength, and durability, Wakatsuki is all 100% natural. Although Wakatsuki and Julius might be equal in power and defense, but since Wakatsuki was born strong all his life and has lived 40 years of his life getting stronger and durable every day, this man defeated Julius and has proven that he can annihilate such monstrosity. And in addition, Wakatsuki has an upper hand, for he is armed with one of the most brutal martial art in the world. His fighting style is none other than karate. Karate, the unarmed martial arts discipline, a Japanese art of self-defense which employs strikes, kicks, and defensive blocking to disable or subdue an opponent. His priority is to focus as much of the body's power at the point and instant of impact. Karate is primarily focused on striking, using the hardest parts of the body, such as knuckles, knees, forearm, and elbows for punching, kicking, knee strikes, elbow strikes, and open hand techniques, such as knife hand, spear hand, palm heel strikes, grappling, throws, joint locks, and restraints. Every part of the body that is available to be used as a weapon is strengthened, hardened, and toughened to their utmost limit, which can be used to smash or pierce through against the enemy's defense and vital points of the body. This martial art is Wakatsuki's arsenal in combination with his rare genetic condition. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. His rigidity can withstand overwhelming blows, even from the mighty Julius Reinhold's cataclysmic strikes and Muteba Gizenga's assassination techniques that are designed to accurately strike the opponent's vital points and kill. Yet, such basic strikes can overwhelm his opponents, such as left hook punch. The left hook is one of the most powerful punches in a fighter's armament, an effective strike due to the weight and momentum behind it. When this strike lands in the right point of impact, the chances of dealing massive damage are very high. Much like the other foundational punches, the left hook generates its power from pushing into the ground from a strong stance. And with Wakatsuki executing this punch, the blow can still penetrate the opponent's defense and can still inflict massive damage. Straight punch. The straight punch has the longest range, yet tends to be the most powerful strike, as it utilizes the muscles in the whole body. And with Wakatsuki's rare condition of fortified strength, this very basic karate punch became even more destructive, as he thrusts his fist into the enemy's defense. Every dense muscle in his body is focused in delivering the most powerful straight punch in history. And if integrated with Wakatsuki's most powerful technique, the power of these strikes are multiplied far beyond their maximum limits. Blast core, where all of the muscles in his body is compressed into a single point, and all of his power is immensely concentrated into the center of his body, his core, an explosion of force with an extremely vigorous outward release of power. And when this power is unleashed, the gut-wrenching detonation of the strike deals tremendous damage to the opponent. This technique can also be used to release himself from inescapable holds, such as Julius Reinhold's bone-crushing bear hug. However, Wakatsuki created this ultimate technique with the sole purpose of defeating Kanoh, and has proven the technique to be immensely powerful. Now that Fei has proclaimed that he is the Tiger's vessel, and has revealed that he is capable of using the Nico style with advanced techniques that Oma himself is unfamiliar with, Wakatsuki could have prepared himself for this match, since he is familiar with the Nico style techniques, as he was defeated by Oma, who is a Nico style user himself. With that said, being defeated by the ultimate technique of the Nico style, is it possible that Wakatsuki had somehow created a technique to counter the Nico style itself, or specifically, a technique to overcome the ultimate counterattack, which is the Demonsbane? Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. The man with the mightiest muscles, born of science. The man who surpassed monsters. The acme of German medicine. A mountain of muscles. The man known as the monster himself. Julius Reinhold. A colossal man who believes that brute strength alone exceeds all, and swore to become stronger and overcome Kanoh, Kuroki, and his rival, Wakatsuki, who is the only competent who has ever defeated him. Thus, the reason why he held a grudge against Wakatsuki. Julius Reinhold is a German origin, whose history is mainly unknown. For him, his muscles are unequal. He got his monstrous muscular physique and incredible power by extreme physical strength training. This is achieved by lifting weights that are far beyond heavier or impossible for a normal person to lift, and those who usually practice this is called a strongman. A strongman is a person who performs remarkable feats of strength. Examples of strongman activities are Atlas stones, axle press, car flip, Conan's wheel, deadlift, deadlift hold, dumbbell press, farmer's walk, frame carry, Hercules hold, Husafel stone, log, clean and press, squat, tire flip, vehicle pull, yoke carry, and Viking press. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below, and by undergoing special doping using insanely large doses of steroids, which can absolutely kill an average human. He attained an indestructible body and godlike strength. This is proof that his body and internal organs are immune to the life-threatening toxicity and side effects of the muscle and performance-enhancing drugs. His strength is immeasurable, that he is able to lift an 800-pound weight with a single arm and even crushed it into a ball with just his bare hands. He can more than crush any bone in the human body using only his powerful grip. Not only does he possess extraordinarily unbelievable strength, his speed is phenomenal as well, as he runs like a first-rate track athlete, and durability that can break boulders when thrown at him without even flinching, even withstanding Wakatsuki's powerful special technique, Blast Core, twice, and was able to counter it with an inescapable bear hug from hell. But wait, there's more. Julius is also very intelligent, as he is knowledgeable in biological science. Combined with his mammoth-like physical strength, maximizes his full potential, which makes him a very dangerous combatant to deal with, as he is capable of making all techniques futile and ineffective against him. His fighting technique, none for his power comes from pure brute force and sheer, unadulterated toughness and rigidity. Julius doesn't use any martial art, as he believes that the strong needs no techniques, and techniques are useless against overwhelming power and durability, and techniques are only for the weak. For he sacrificed everything for the sake of obtaining unparalleled strength. However, even for a fact that he was defeated because he is an unbeliever of techniques and holding a grudge against Wakatsuki for defeating him. For this reason, with his knowledge of the human biology, specializing on the human muscular system, he developed a technique which concept was adapted from the principles of Wakatsuki's blast core. This juggernaut has perfected muscle control in the most monumental degree. The God Tutor Steinbohrer, the God Killer Rock Drills, a technique where every independent fiber of muscles in his arm are flexed into their very limits, and by using rotational force or twisting his arm and releasing that compressed force at the moment of impact, this technique has the power to deflect or smash through any defense or counterattack with absolute raw power, ignoring the opponent's defense and durability. Even someone as powerful of a behemoth as Towamudo was thrown into a distance and was no match against Julius' brute strength and newfound technique, a single strike with unfathomable force. Now, since Julius already possesses a technique, will he be able to defeat Wakatsuki in their next battle or rematch? Does Julius have more techniques which he developed to become more powerful than his rivals? And in the fight between Wakatsuki and Fei, Julius is confident that Wakatsuki will win this match, for he knows Wakatsuki's power and strength which he had experienced firsthand. And if Wakatsuki defeated someone as ginormous and overly powerful as him, then Fei doesn't stand a chance, even if he is the dreaded Tiger's vessel, at least in Julius' perspective. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. A violent police inspector and captain of the 44th Ride Squad, a merciless vigilante with a twisted sense of justice, who brutally kills dreadful criminals with no remorse. Justice is what motivates him. The executioner, Akoya Seishu, as he pursues greater strength to attain the invincible power of perfect justice. His strikes are solid and explosive, strong enough to break bones. His defense is considered to be the strongest in the Kengan matches. His durability, displayed by his stance, is an iron wall that repels attacks from his opponents, such as Haruo's gigantic build and extremely heavy blows, and full bodyweight rush attack. The King of Strangler strikes doesn't even make him flinch. Ryuki's powerful, air-rending strike only grazed him, and even Nicolas' paralyzing blows are not enough to take him down completely, as his arms, compared to steel, are vital for his offense and defense against the opponent. His grip is powerful enough to tear the flesh of his enemy. Akoya has the tendency to lose himself in the middle of a fight and will use sadistic methods to torture his enemy, such as piercing the intercostal nerve, resulting in an excessive and unbearable amount of pain, breaking the rib in the process. He will resort to biting and ripping off the flesh, causing massive bleeding, going so far as chewing that chunk of human meat. which psychologically instills fear and intimidates the opponent. Aside from his brutal power and impenetrable defense, his speed, reflexes, and reaction time is considered to be inhuman, that he uses to evade and counter strikes with extreme accuracy, even preventing Cosmo's three-point hold from fully connecting. All of this combined with his fighting technique, Taiho Jutsu, the arresting art, the technique of subduing, a martial art used and developed by Japanese judicial police officers that is specialized to restrain, subdue, or neutralize hostility, usually utilized for violent, armed, and dangerous criminals, with the purpose of capturing hostile lawbreakers alive and uninjured. This martial art consists of specialized implementations of non-lethal techniques such as joint locks, holds, strikes, and kicks that is intended to pacify or disable threats. The methods of Taiho Jutsu are composed of a mix of martial arts such as Kenjutsu, Jujutsu, Aikido, Karate, and Judo, and with Akoya's relentlessness and cruelty, this martial art became lethal and is without equal. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. His techniques, shield, as his massive left forearm acts as an impenetrable shield to take on the full impact of powerful strikes from the opponent and divert its force away from him. This gives him the opportunity to strike back, as this technique leaves the opponent open for attacks, and by using his left forearm to pin his opponents to the ground, gives him total advantage in a fight, a tactic with no perfect countermeasure. Ripper. Not only does his right arm act as a weapon that delivers devastating bone-breaking blows to the opponent, Akoya can also use his knuckles to cut through the opponent's skin and flesh. By twisting his wrist expeditiously, it accelerates and multiplies his fist's rotation, which is almost similar to Rihito's razor's edge. This technique is non-fatal, but wounds and bleeds the opponent, and by hitting and piercing the wound repeatedly, is a sadistic way to harass the opponent. And finally, the stance of suppression, a fighting stance which concept was adapted from the Fang of Mitsudo and was customized to fit Akoya's personality, constitution, and fighting style. A dreadful posture that is more aggressive, specialized and focused for striking than that of Kanoh's, allowing Akoya to rush in by using his speed and superhuman reflexes to assault the enemy with powerful attacks. Akoya might be twisted in his own brand of justice, for he kills criminals he considers who don't deserve second chances, rapists, murderers, drug lords, yakuzas, even petty thieves, dealing corporal punishment to evildoers. But doing so, he eventually fell into the killer's impulse, transforming his justice into plain murder. However, he was almost killed by Ryuki during their battle. If Ryuki hadn't controlled himself at the end of that fight, he called Ryuki as comrade, and he knows that Ryuki will join him in his pursuit of justice. What do you think is Akoya planning to do with Ryuki as his companion, since both of them believe that the people they kill deserve to die, and feels no regret in doing so, just confirms that they do have something in common. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. The Dragon King. The demonic dragon, Gaoh Ryuki, a mysterious individual who wanted to enter the Kengan matches. He and Oma were both born and raised in the inside, as he has a striking similarity to Oma, therefore is thought to be Oma's clone. Ryuki, even though the speed and strength he possesses is undeniably impressive, is suppressed as Koga is somewhat manipulating him to not kill, contradicting the promise he made to his grandfather. Hence, his true power should not be restrained, for his potential comes from his ferocity and killing instinct, though he kills worm members only, as his grandfather, Gaoh Mukaku, nurtured and trained him to do so. Ryuki has been called as the Omega, the last child, and the connector, the one to lead the worm, as he is also thought to be the tiger's vessel. His durability can withstand powerful killing blows and bone-crushing throws by someone as extremely strong as Naidan. His fighting technique, the Gaoh style, where Gaoh Mukaku is known to be its last user and master, is the base form of the Nico style, known as the Prostrated King style, an older form of classical Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu, the gentle art, a deadly martial art that employs holds, throws, and paralyzing blows. Jiu-Jitsu was used by samurai warriors, a ruthless style with the object of warfare, and was utilized during the 17th century in the battlefield as an accessory for their killer sword combat, a reliable system of fighting which involves techniques that employs the hardest and toughest parts of the body against an enemy's vulnerable points, which can be used in a defensive or offensive strategies to subdue or kill. Jiu-Jitsu is the base form for other martial arts such as Judo, Aikido, Sambo, Armейский, Rukopashny Boy, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and mixed martial arts. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. The Gaoh style was said to be a fighting style for cowards, where the style's main composition are surprise attacks, although the Gaoh style's complete functions are still largely unknown. The following are the Gaoh style's known techniques. Earth Crouching Dragon. This technique often strikes the opponent from a blind spot and waits for the opponent to be in a vulnerable state. The user surprises the opponent during that moment and executes a powerful uppercut strike, air rending, a technique executed from a prone position that is indistinguishable from Earth Crouching Dragon. But instead of an uppercut strike, the user jumps into the air and strikes with a flying roundhouse kick, where the gravity and weight of the user adds more power to the strike, utilizing the strength of the user's leg to deliver a devastating downward blow. Soft strike, a strike that utilizes the user's speed, where the force ignores the opponent's defense. The force of the strike penetrates inside the body, delivering a lethal blow, and should also damage the internal organs as well. Uncoiling Serpent Strike, a technique where the user rotates the upper part of the body to hide the striking limb, like a snake preparing to strike. The user then feints an approach to the direction opposite to the attacking limb, then strikes at the moment when the opponent is confused of the user's intent, thus exploiting the element of surprise. Twin Dragon Charge, a technique where the user utilizes both arms to strike the opponent, preferably the head. The strike should hit the opponent's temples at the same time, as the force cannot go anywhere. It nullifies the opponent's ability to redirect the impact as both knuckles hit the target simultaneously. Armor-clad, similar to the Nico style's Indestructible, a defensive technique that drastically increases the user's defense or durability, that works by tightening all the muscles in the body at once to prepare for the moment of impact. Pierce. This technique utilizes the armor-clad's principles, which can also be applied as a weapon when muscles in the finger, such as the thumb, is hardened, piercing through the opponent's vitals. This is closely similar to Kuroki's Devil Lance. And Weeping Willow, also a similar technique to the Nico style with the same name. This technique reorients the trajectory of the opponent's attack by diverting the power or force away from the user. This technique deflects the opponent's attacks while having the opponent lose their balance, leaving the opponent open for attacks. Gaoh Ryuki, unlike Oma, seems to not have the same experience of battle, but when triggered or provoked, he goes into a berserk mode, overtaking the point of no return, where his power, speed, and reflexes are unleashed and can overwhelm the opponent, although his attacks and movements are too direct and easy to counter. However, Ryuki is suppressed at the moment and is confused whether or not he must kill. This restrains his true power as he is born, raised, and trained to murder. Killing is his true nature and is evidently the way he is. What do you think will happen to Ryuki when those chains that hold him back are finally removed? Are there more Gaoh-style techniques that are solely designed to kill? Will the Omega be unstoppable? Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. An ex-French Special Forces operative, a sociopath known as the Grim Reaper of Paris, the small but terrible Nicolas Le Banner. Years ago, Nicolas, along with his friend Jean-Luc, were on a mission and was deployed in one of the war zones. But instead of saving the lives of civilians, Nicolas committed the act of mass murder by killing innocent civilians brutally. He is unrivaled when it comes to military, unarmed combat, and unparalleled weapon handling skills. He was so powerful that he even slaughtered everyone from the military unit. No one is safe from his murderous and merciless nature, not even his best friend Jean-Luc. However, Jean-Luc, even though he admired him, was a psychopath himself and was unexpectedly more powerful than Nicolas. Jean-Luc then killed Nicolas, took his identity, and became the fake Nicolas. The French army is well trained in close quarters combat or close quarters battle, a tactical situation that involves a physical fight between multiple combatants, which is composed of a mix of various martial arts. They establish different techniques and ranges, and is based on close operational intervention technique. Aside from being proficient in military unarmed combat, he made his very own martial art, Sahat, the combination of three martial arts: fencing, karate, and savate. Fencing, a sword combat of a highly systematic art and a balance of offensive and defensive strategies. By using a sword combined with the user's speed and precision to accurately strike the opponent to certain points of the body, Nicolas use this martial art to precisely strike the opponent's pressure points, like a sting from a Parisian bee which numbs the opponent's affected body part, immediately rendering that opponent's certain part of the body useless by paralysis. By striking vulnerable points of the body's nervous system, it nullifies that certain body part's normal functions. Karate, the empty hand martial arts discipline, which employs striking, kicking, and defensive blocking with the body's limbs. By concentrating as much of the body's power at the point and instant of impact, the strike causes devastating damage to the opponent's body and internal organs as well. Karate strengthens and toughens the hardest part of the body by constant but rigorous training, that even a karate master's simple forearm block can cause traumatic injury to the attacker. And finally, savate, which translates to old shoe, a French kickboxing sport which mainly uses kicks to strike the opponent. These kicks are delivered with vicious, bone-breaking intent. Savate incorporates open hand blows or thrusting or smashing palm strikes, and open hand slaps which targets the opponent's facial nerves. Savate is considered as a street fighting technique that includes knee and elbow strikes along with locks, sweeps, throws, headbutts, and takedowns. Nicolas' fighting technique can even blind or impair one's breathing, which takes the advantage of Nicolas' extended arm reach that immobilizes the opponent, leaving him open for attacks. Nicolas might be small in stature, but his speed, reflexes, and precision is considered to be inhuman. His durability can withstand Akoya's mightiest blows, even enduring a bite in the neck and ripping his flesh in the process, and taking on the excessive damage by Akoya's devastating headbutt repeatedly. Sahat, the killer cutting hand, the Grim Reaper's weapon, the Nicolas-style French karate, a fighting technique designed with the intention of killing the opponent, a technique which can only be executed by someone as ruthless as Nicolas. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. In the Kengan series, there are 3 known characters who are proficient in a certain martial art, a system of unarmed combat. Its objective is to throw, pin, or to master the opponent, and to cause the opponent pain by applying pressure to the joints or neck. Hard throws to the ground can lead to serious injuries or even death. This martial art is known as Judo. The techniques of Judo are generally intended to turn an opponent's force and body weight to one's own advantage. The power of the throw is multiplied by adding the user's strength. Judo is a very dangerous martial art in itself, as there are known techniques that can be fatal if executed incorrectly or intentionally. Teiguruma, Tani Otoshi, Uchimata, Kata Guruma. These are moves that can cause severe spinal damage, concussion, or break an opponent's neck if the user drops the opponent's head onto the ground or concrete with excessive force and killing intent. The following Judo moves are forbidden. Ashigurami, where the user locks the opponent's leg, twisting it in a very unnatural position, causing that joint to pop out of place. Dojime, where the user compresses the opponent's ribcage, causing asphyxiation or breaking the ribs. Kani Basami, a scissor takedown that can easily cause massive head trauma or severe concussion. Kawazugake, a type of leg entanglement that can also break the opponent's head by forcing one's body to land backwards and hit the back of the head with massive force. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. A murderous mercenary known as the Crying Man, Meguro Masaki, the son of a known judo master, Meguro the Monster. His talent in judo, combined with his brutal and sadistic nature, led him to kill his fellow judokas, including his own father, Meguro Hiroki. Meguro's judo skills is formidable, but is such a savage that he will grab his opponent's skin and flesh with his incredible grip, using it like cloth and throwing his opponent onto the ground with immense killing force. But Meguro isn't just a sadist, he is a masochistic madman as well. His brain has a unique ability which secretes vast amounts of opioids that instead of feeling pain, he feels pleasure upon taking damage. More pain, more pleasure. Despite getting his eye gouged, a finger stab in his ear, his elbow dislocated, his fingers broken, his throat pierced, or getting his balls squeezed with crushing force. This sensation heightens his killing intent and lets out his utmost savagery. Meguro doesn't have any sense of hesitation that he will use any lethal force to kill his opponent, even resorting to biting and ripping the flesh of his opponent, and the only way to stop him is to kill him. According to Hayami, Meguro's fighting skills and abilities are weaker than that of Arashiyama Yurota's, but still is more terrifying as an opponent. Hayami Masaki, the Killing Throw, the younger brother and the clone of Meguro. Though Hayami is a clone and a spitting image of Meguro, he is more human, smarter, and stronger than Meguro, and is more friendly amongst his colleagues. Hayami, however, is not as brutal as his brother Meguro. He doesn't have that killing intent, although he is slower than his brother. His unique ability of adapting from his opponent's strength gives him an advantage during battle. Aside from his extraordinary judo skills, he can resort into using bone-crushing blows, powerful combos, and even repeatedly pounding his opponent with a hammer fist into unconsciousness. Hayami can also withstand damage, even from death-inducing force. He sparred with Meguro regularly, with Meguro's intentions of killing him, but Hayami's resilience prevented him from dying of his brother's killing throws. Such characteristics which he inherited from Meguro himself. Similar to Meguro, Hayami's resilience is absolute, while both of them can withstand massive damage and tolerate pain. They seem to lack the ability to evade or even block an opponent's attack. Their ability to tolerate pain and convert it to pleasure or enjoyment has its limits, and that limit is death. Meguro was dubbed as Boy M by law enforcers, an unknown person who kills his victims with a single judo throw, which piqued Yurota's interest and dubbed him as his nemesis. Yurota Arashiyama, the Gentle King, an exceptionally powerful judoka with 20 years of mastery and experience, who perfected the judo throw, the swing, the ability to throw his opponent by only using the friction in his fingers or just by pinching his opponent's clothing, thus removing the gap between grab and throw, which skips the preparatory motions of a throw. He can also use this technique to slam his opponent's head onto the ground with skull-crushing force, causing severe concussion, which can lead to death. Yurota's throwing skills are on such a level that surpass even Oma and Kano's throwing skills. With this unique method of throwing, which he developed, the speed in which he throws his opponent cannot be seen by untrained eyes. His power and strength is said to be equal with both Kuroki and Lolong. Nevertheless, Yurota, even though he doesn't strike, he will not hesitate to dislocate the joints of his opponent, His loyalty to Judo, his non-killing intent, and no-strike policy, along with the rules of battle, led him to his defeat against Hayami. If it was a normal Judo match, he will definitely win, but the rules of Purgatory kept him from using his full potential. All of them have their own remarkable abilities, skills, strength, durability, and power. But be that as it may, Meguro, Hayami, and Kurota, the three of them, are all but powerful judoka masters. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. The unbeatable Japanese heavyweight ultimate champion and the living legend of the mixed martial arts world, the king of combat, Ohkubo Naoya, armed with his proficiency in boxing, wrestling, and grappling as his specialty, equipped with incredible strength, endurance, and durability, where such powerful combatants such as Ryan Kure, Oma Tokita, and even Kuroki Gensai recognized his power, strength, and fighting capabilities. So far, Ohkubo doesn't have any special techniques and relies only on his brute strength, unparalleled striking power, unescapable submission holds, unorthodox stance, and mixed martial arts techniques. During his fight against Kanoh in the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, he was able to overwhelm his opponent by mixing his moves, or by using, mismatching, striking, throwing, and grappling. He can fake an attack and switch to grappling, and fake grappling, but use an attack instead, confusing the enemy's defense that even Kanoh is unable to defend or counter his attacks. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. Mixed martial arts is one of the most popular combat sports in the world, a hybrid combat sport which incorporates various fighting styles and techniques. In its infancy, it was described as a brutal no-holds-barred blood sport that was derived from pankration, the ancient Greek sports that combined both wrestling and boxing, where combats were indeed savage, even while the fighter is down on the ground, hitting, kicking, elbow strikes, throat strikes, twisting of limbs, headbutts, hair pulls, groin strikes, and strangling. Such brutalities were allowed that combatants died during matches. Ohkubo was able to overpower Kanoh with his combination and mismatching of strikes, grapples, and throws, but he made a mistake of stopping his attacks while his opponent was down, for he is no match against Kanoh's formless stance. But maybe, if Ohkubo rushed in and gave Kanoh a submission hold or chokehold, he might have defeated Kanoh. Anyhow, Ohkubo Naoya is about to fight against the most mysterious fighter of the Purgatory, Terashi, the Silent Nightmare. Little is known about this ex-Bishamon fighter. However, the way he walked into the ring kinda resembled someone's stance. Is it the formless stance? Is it Gaoh Ryuki's Gaoh style? Or is it Yuzaki Mumon's Kunlun style snake fist or 7-star snake style? Terashi's height is higher than Ohkubo's, while Ohkubo has more dominance with his weight. Though Terashi has a reach advantage, Ohkubo's attacks will be stronger and heavier. Will this be enough for Ohkubo to win this match, since Ohkubo was able to overcome someone as strong and powerful as Kanoh Agito, whose height and weight exceeds that of Ohkubo's, unless Terashi has extraordinary speed and uncanny techniques. We are about to find out who's stronger between them. However, Ohkubo's first strike should break Terashi's mask, thus finally revealing his true identity. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. The man who was supposed to be the Fang, known as the Floating Cloud, and the master of the Hatsumi-style Aikido, Hatsumi Sen, though he was known to be the very model of an irresponsible jackass. He is calm but powerful, competitive Aikidoka. He fights with unpredictable but minimal movements with incredible speed, making it difficult or even impossible to read his actions in battle. That even an injured Oma in his possessing spirit form wasn't able to land a hit on him. He also has the ability to predict and lure his opponents to his advantage. His fighting skills are on a different level, that he was chosen to be the 5th Fang of Metsudo. But as disappointing as it is, he left after a week of training, for he found it uninteresting. His fight against Chiba, the Faceless Man, only took him 26 seconds to end that fight, as Chiba made the mistake of using Aikido against him. According to Sakabayashi Jun, Hatsumi, during their fight, pretended that he was in a disadvantage, and was defeated because he fell for his trap, proving that Hatsumi's unpredictability rises when he is on a roll. Hatsumi doesn't stick to Aikido alone. He can also use the spear hand for tactics such as eye pokes. He can easily break his opponent's bones, and can also redirect his opponent's force, such as Bando Yohei's deadly whiplash attack, which is powerful enough to smash a man's head like a pumpkin, or slice a human body into two. Hatsumi's evasive ability is extraordinary, that it would seem that his opponent's attacks are phasing through his body and creating an accurate image in the process. He shifts his body when using this unique type of evasion, as it uses minimal effort and minimal use of stamina, giving the illusion of being hit by moving in the opponent's attack's limit line. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. Aikido, the Japanese martial art of extensive arrangement of throwing, joint locking, striking, and pinning techniques. A self-defense system that resembles the fighting methods of Jiu-Jitsu and Judo, with its use of twisting and throwing techniques, and its aim of turning an opponent's power and force against himself, neutralizing the attack's effectiveness and redirecting the momentum away from the user, and return that force back to the attacker. Pressure on vital nerve centers is also used. Aikido's purpose is to subdue rather than to incapacitate or kill, but the design of its movements and attacks are nevertheless deadly. His powers and abilities: the 100 meetings throw, a technique where he sweeps his opponent with immense force which causes them to be thrown into the air. This move uses the force of gravity and the opponent's own body weight against them. The user uses the opponent's arm and forces them to the ground vertically, which adds more power and multiplies the technique's destructive impact, smashing the opponent's head onto the ground with immense, brutal force. This technique aims to break the skull and the vertebrae of the opponent, killing a normal combatant. Gathering Clouds, triple strike, an effective but non-fatal technique. This move is executed by using the middle knuckle of the index finger. The user uses accurate but rapid strikes, hitting the 3 vital areas of the front part of the skull aggressively, leaving fractures to the targets and causes the opponent's eyes, nose, and mouth to bleed, thus knocking the opponent unconscious. And finally, the pinnacle of Hatsumi's techniques, Star Drop, the ultimate technique of Hatsumi-style Aikido, where the user places his palm on the opponent's chin, forcing it upwards, then by using the other arm to grab the waist of the opponent as leverage, the force bends the opponent's body into a counterclockwise direction, smashing the opponent's back of the head to hit the ground with incredible and devastating force. The impact should cause severe concussion or even death. However, even though Hatsumi Sen could have been the 5th Fang, his fight against Kanoh involved using these powerful techniques. He used the Gathering Cloud's triple strike against Kanoh, but ended up breaking his finger as Kanoh countered this attack with the Jiu-Jitsu finger hold technique. He eventually had the opportunity to use the ultimate technique, Star Drop, but was again countered by Kanoh's lethal 1-inch punch, leaving Hatsumi unable to finish the technique. Although Hatsumi's durability is not to be taken for granted, as he can be considered to be stronger than the 4th Fang, he was such a master that he was able to subconsciously divert the tremendous impact of Kanoh's 1-inch punch twice in a row, enabling him to withstand its power, even enduring the impact from Kanoh's kick that cracked his ribs. But in truth, even in his peak physical condition, Hatsumi is outclassed by Kanoh. He knows how big the gap is between him and his opponent, and is only alive because Kanoh held back his true strength on him. After the tournament, he was supposed to be included in the roster to fight in the Purgatory tournament, but Hatsumi's whereabouts are unknown, and it was found out that he is residing in China for reasons unknown. He might be training for another technique to enhance his fighting skills and improve his laziness or eliminate the conditioning dependence that limits his power, which causes his vulnerability. As we are looking forward to witness his comeback and see how he has conquered his weaknesses, he must be stronger and have added a few more techniques to his arsenal to match or even surpass Kanoh's fighting level. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Known as the Hawk of Ordos, Naidan Monkhbat is an A-list purgatory fighter who had trust issues with Nicolas for reasons unknown. He infiltrated the Worm years prior until he became a direct subordinate who only reports to the head of the Worm. He developed his tremendous power and strength through intense physical training, and this warrior's fighting style is Mongolian wrestling. In the rules of Bok, there is no limit in space, time, or even one's weight class. Victory is achieved if one wrestles his opponent and forces him to the ground, or make his opponent touch the ground with any body part, as only the foot is permitted to touch the ground. One is not allowed to use strikes or grab one's leg with the hands, but in other styles of Mongolian wrestling, kicking or grabbing the opponent's legs are permitted. Its weakness, however, is its lack of ground-based form of strangling, striking, or locking, Bok, which means strength, solidarity, and durability. is the Mongolian warrior's grappling martial art. Genghis Khan used Bok to keep his warriors battle ready and in great physical shape. Thousands of years ago, these warriors practiced Bok regularly and was much focused on its essence as a military sport, predominantly used for building strength, stamina, and skills training. Years ago, Naidan lost to Lu when he infiltrated the worm. He lost that fight for the reason that he is not accustomed with the purgatory fighting rules, meaning that he was holding back his enormous strength, as after he held 4 horses with only his arms, he easily murdered his master by throwing him to the ground with great force. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. Although, in the 5th round, Ryuki did unleash incredible speed and power, thus heavily damaging Naidan in the fight, he undeniably allowed himself to be defeated only because his mission was to force Ryuki to kill and release the Omega's true potential and become the Connector. This was based on the story of Bok and Belgute. Bok was the undefeated champion and was also a famous national wrestler. Time came when Genghis Khan made them wrestle. During their match, Belgute was able to put Bok to the ground. Despite being stronger than Belgute, Belgute was able to pin Bok by sitting on his back. As Belgute gazed at Genghis Khan, Belgute then broke Bok's spine and Bok died. Nonetheless, Bok allowed himself to be defeated and killed only because Genghis Khan commanded his death, which is similar to how Naidan sacrificed himself and allowed Ryuki to kill him purposely to fulfill his task. For his abilities, the Eye of the Sky, a technique which allows him to see the enemy's movements through a bird's eye view. But, as Lolong mentioned, that this technique is only similar to Foresight, which is only predicting the enemy's moves and attacks. And someone who is fast enough and strikes with unpredictable movements can break this technique. Kuch, a technique that disperses the opponent's power, rendering them unable to attack. This can also maneuver and subjugate the enemy's force, much like a hard version of the Nico style's redirection kata. It's a shame that we didn't witness Naidan's true strength and abilities, as he wasn't able to even properly perform his true Mongolian wrestling or grappling techniques, as having him die in such a way did not give him any justice. However, his overall power is comparable to Julius Reinhold, Wakatsuki Takeshi, and Ryan Kure, and by being compared to these powerhouses, somewhat proves what Naidan Monkhbat is capable of, and how powerful and deadly he really is. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Kuroki Gensai, a master of the Kaiwan style, an assassination-style martial art that focuses on the exploitation of acupressure points, kata, and the system of coordinated body posture and movement, breathing, and meditation. In the human body, the fingers and toes are usually taken for granted, as they are only used for grabbing, holding, and making a fist. But in Kaiwan style, its main concentration is all about hand conditioning, to transform the fingers and toes into deadly, stabbing, or piercing weapons, and its signature attack is none other than the Devil Lance. So what is the Devil Lance? The Devil Lance is a perfect assassination piercing type technique where one can kill a person just by utilizing his fingers. A death point striking form reputed to kill using lethal force to target specific areas of the body, where the user forms his fingers closely to mimic a spear and strikes with a forward thrusting motion. This technique allows the user to stab the opponent with great ease, causing severe laceration of the skin and mutilation of the enemy's flesh, followed by blood loss. A very intense form of hand conditioning is needed in order to perform this technique, where the practitioner strikes water, sand, stones, and gravel repeatedly in order for the bones to be more denser and stronger, rendering the bones and joints virtually indestructible. And by utilizing the clawing jar technique, or lifting jars filled with water and sand, which intensifies the gripping and pinching power that also reinforces the joints of the fingers and hardens the wrist. If the fingers are not strong enough, the strike will likely peel the fingernails, break the fingers, or dislocate the joints and lose the normal functions of the hands. This hand strengthening technique is used for the existing Tiger Claw hand martial art, and in Kaiwan style, the practitioner continues his intense hand conditioning even if the hands are broken or injured. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. The Devil Lance is very identical to Nukite or Spear Hand. There are 3 types of Nukite, and these are Ippon Nokite, or 1-finger strike, Nihon Nokite, or 2-finger strike, and Yonhon Nokite, or 4-finger strike. The spear hand targets the weak points of the body, such as to pierce the eyes and throat, or to grab the opponent from under the rib, jaw, or collarbone, as the spear hand or Nokite is most effective for poking, probing, and controlling. Nonetheless, the Devil Lance, aside from using the 4 extended fingers, the thumb, and even the toes can also be utilized, which makes one think of how uncanny the training would be in order to achieve such level. In high-level users of this technique, one can pierce stones and even high-yield carbon steel. A master such as Kuroki Gensai, whose hands are tougher than steel, can execute this technique from a very short range and will pierce the flesh without much of an effort, as he has well perfected this technique. The Devil Lance's lethality is only limited upon the user and can be utterly fatal if one will aim for either the neck, head, or even the heart. Anyhow, this Kaiwan style technique may seem to be unattainable, for the only way to break or pierce carbon steel is if your force is greater than its structural integrity. The molecular bonds of steel and structural forces are only broken if your hands and fingers have more structural integrity than the steel, and the ability to perform this technique is far beyond the capabilities of the great majority of martial artists. However, with enough training, effort, and dedication to hand conditioning, one can pursue and even achieve something such as this. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. The Nico style, or the Two Tigers style, a fighting style based on the original martial art Gaoh style. It incorporates the use of 4 katas: water kata, flame kata, redirection kata, and Adamantine Kata. When the user had mastered all 4 katas, these katas can be fused accordingly to unleash a very powerful strike, which is the Demonsbane. There are 5 known characters who can use the Demonsbane: Gaoh Mukaku, the other Nico, Oma's Nico, Oma Tokita, and presumably the unknown Tiger's Vessel. It is unsure whether Kanoh Agito, Kiryu Setsuna, and Gaoh Ryuki knows anything about this technique. The Demonsbane is the secret ultimate technique of the Nico style, which renders any attack futile. But before the user can achieve this technique, one must first reach beyond their physical limits and fight on the brink of death. The reason is when the human body has expended everything, it goes into autophagy, where the body goes into survival mode and preserve vital functions, which causes the body to be more focused. Movement becomes more light, fluid, and stable. And when one has completed all of these requirements, then the passing of the technique will be completed successfully. So what is the Demonsbane? The Demonsbane is essentially a formless counterattack where the user absorbs the opponent's striking power and reverts it back to the attacker. And by adding the user's power to the counterattack, this ultimate technique generates an incredible amount of attack power, resulting to an overwhelming, deadly strike. In order for this technique to work, one must time the blow accordingly. If the timing goes wrong, the damage to the user will be more significant than that of the opponent, and the force of the attack will be inadequate. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. The 4 katas should be activated in time succession, and the first kata to be performed in this technique is the redirection kata, the flow control form. This kata allows one to exploit the flow of power using minimal movements and change the direction of the force away from the user. When the user has control over the opponent's force, it goes to the next kata, the water kata, the heavenly water form, a kata centered on grappling and the fluidity of one's motion, to flow like water, to go limp on the moment of impact and absorb the force of that impact. When the user has properly absorbed that force, then it goes to the next kata, the flame kata, the heavenly fire form, focused on maneuverability of one's motion and arrangement of the body's position to target the opponent effectively. It also causes the user to be extraordinarily fast and agile. And when the user has positioned himself and marked his target, then he goes on to the next kata, the adamantine kata, the adamant form, responsible for both tightening and hardening of the muscles by flexing for the purpose of offense and defense. And as the final kata for the Demonsbane, this kata reroutes the power back to the source, and by adding the user's power into the attack, it creates an immense amount of force which initiates a very destructive and powerful strike upon impact. However, if the Demonsbane is not executed properly, the attack of the opponent will not be nullified, and the user's body will take on the full force of the strike's impact, thus heavily damaging the user instead and decreases the technique's intended capability, making the Demonsbane a double-edged sword, where one will die trying to master it, and one will die trying to execute the technique. Anyhow, this ultimate Nico-style technique can oppose any form of strike and promises to overwhelm the enemy, given that the technique will be executed flawlessly. The Demonsbane is a complicated ultimate reversal technique that will dominate any fighting style, no matter how powerful that martial art may be. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Misasa, the 8th Fang of Mitsudo, a former second-in-command of the Extermination Force and a former captain of the 5th Squad of the Bodyguards, weighing at 68 kilograms and a height of 173 centimeters. Being a small-framed individual he is, one should not underestimate Misasa, for he is equipped with one of the deadliest martial art that originates back to the 8th century. A martial art that was originally designed for war combat, a full-body fighting form of incorporating strikes, footwork, hand motions, joint manipulation, and pressure point attacks. For every part of the body is used to strike. This martial art is called Silat, a fighting technique which is all about but one thing, and that is violence. Influenced by both Chinese and Indian martial art, it is more commonly known as Pencak Silat and known to originate from Indonesia. This fighting style lets one exploit the opponent's weakness to debilitate or incapacitate instantly, and by using the elbows, the sharpest and hardest bone in the human body, this martial art grants the user the ability to lacerate the skin, break bones, and dislocate joints. And this is Misasa's weapon of choice. During the 4th round, as the rules are different, they were forced to fight in a limited space, rendering his opponent's fighting style of imaginary weapons less effective, while Misasa's fighting style excels in close combat. Even with Misasa's small build and light frame, he is able to exert major damage, even breaking a rock with only his knuckles at close range and with no effort. Before we continue, consider subscribing and share your thoughts by commenting below. As the rules of the fight went in favor of Misasa, Yumigahama had no choice but to shift his fighting styles. Silat's offense can also be used as defense, where elbows are used to hit and damage the attacking limb and cancel the power of the attack, thus completely blocking or parrying the strike. His small build did not hinder him, as he has honed his fighting style in bringing down large enemies, making it easier for him to land powerful blows to his opponent. His stance allowed him to attack or defend whilst standing or crouching. It is therefore difficult for his opponent to hit or deal any significant damage to him. Misasa used his elbow to defend himself from incoming attacks from his opponent and countered them by using his elbows as well, such as his spinning elbow strike, an elbow strike, where one drives his elbow in a horizontal and circular motion, either in a counter or a clockwise direction. This elbow strike enables the user to get closer to his opponent, allowing Misasa to strike his opponent at point-blank range and overwhelming him with a barrage of accurate strikes while exploiting every exposed opening. Misasa attacked his opponent's weak points and vitals and dislocating his enemy's jaw by using the joint between his thumbs, concluding the fight with a 12-6 elbow strike or downward elbow strike to the nape, hitting it with considerable force, rapidly striking the target with the tip of the elbow, followed by an elbow uppercut to the chin. This elbow strike cuts through the enemy's guard that moves with a thrusting upward gripping motion, and ending it with a full force downward punch with enough force to cause his opponent's face to cave in, a brutal finisher, leaving his opponent with a life-threatening condition. With that final strike, even Lolong admitted that he would struggle to win against Misasa, for his power is a legitimate threat. Misasa did not have any fancy ultimate strikes, as Silat's attacks and defenses are simplistic. Its movements are soft and fluid, yet Its strikes are dealt with pinpoint accuracy, making this fighting style one of the most effective and deadliest form of martial art that ever existed. Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. The Fang of Mitsudo, the epithet of the strongest of all fighters under Katahara Mitsudo, and the strongest of them all is Kanoh Agito, the fifth Fang, for he is the successor of Kure Eryo. He is the emperor of the Kengan matches. For him, the distance of his opponent doesn't matter, for all of Agito's strikes have the power of a knockout blow, even at point-blank range. His kick is so sharp that the impact is similar to being hit with a cleaver. A fighter with two fighting styles, the first style being the aggressive one, which uses pre-initiative or the ability to scrutinize the opponent's strikes before the opponent even begins to move, and techniques that merge together from countless martial arts schools. And the formless style, the formidable stance of Agito, which consists of unconventional and unpredictable movements with the versatility and adaptability to counter any strategy or fighting style. 8 years ago, Wakatsuki Takeshi had a match with him and described Agito as a powerful and violent disaster. Previous to the Kengan matches, Kanoh battled Nitoku, which gave him a difficult match and brought him at the brink of defeat. Consequently, he fought under the Dainippon Bank. During the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, he defeated Ohkubo Naoya, Gaolang Wongsawat, Hatsumi Sen, and finally lost to Kuroki Gensai, his first ever defeat. After the tournament, he retired from being the Fang of Mitsudo and lived in the United States for 2 years. He then made a comeback as a fighter for the Kengan Association to take down Yumigahama Hikaru, the sixth Fang of Mitsudo, who betrayed Katahara Mitsudo and defected to Purgatory. Nonetheless, it was Misasa, the eighth Fang of Mitsudo, who battled and defeated the traitor. Kanoh Agito, the man with two faces, changed for the better as he is now more human, unlike before. The beast was gone. This beast persona is a result of the grueling 3-month survival inside a room filled with competence, much like what transpired with the Tokita Nikos in Gakigahara Forest. Hunger, thirst, pain, and suffering while battling for life and death, which is the human blue ritual. He created a mental or psychological defense mechanism due to post-traumatic stress, a barrier to separate his outer ego from his human side. This beast is triggered whenever he uses the formless style. He eliminated the beast inside of it by merging both of his personalities. Thus, the fusion of martial arts and the formless style emerged, resulting in the removal of the gap of transformation whenever he switches his fighting style, though he hasn't completely blocked his second persona, as he still uses the word "we" during his purgatory match against one of the three demon fists, the Centipede, Lu Xian, a second-generation human goo ritual survivor, a formless style user as well, that can activate Gi Hun. His formless stance is more powerful, as his master concentrated all of his efforts in developing the style to excellence, and trained the second generation with the formless style alone. Alan Wu assumed that he is the tiger's vessel that the worm has been referring to. Eventually, it was then revealed that they had the same master, the same person who activated Oma's possessing spirit. This confirms that Kanoh Agito is also a Nico-style user, where he used the indestructible technique as proof and was supposed to be a product of the worm if Katahara Mitsudo hadn't found him. Surprisingly, the founder of the formless style is none other than the other Tokita Nico, as he abandoned the Nico style completely due to its flaws. The formless style is a martial art that he created with unknown origins and honed it to its perfection. He then connived with Edward Wu to learn the basics of Gi Hun and pass it on to Lu Xian as an experimental subject, a prodigy who can withstand the power of Gi Hun. Lu Xian is able to release a remarkable 96% of his latent power, which comes close to Ryan's 100%, making him a terrifying and formidable enemy. However, Lu Xian succumbed to its power and went berserk, thus losing his humanity as he lost control over the technique. And without any special attacks, even with the overwhelming power of Gi Hun, Agito defeated Lu Xian, as he has the ability to evolve with every fight, thus increasing his level of combat. Agito finished his opponent off by utilizing his ultimate technique, the most powerful of his attacks, an unblockable strike which is executed at point-blank range, the Dragon Shot. Kanoh Agito walked away from the stage without any visible damage, leaving his opponent unconscious with a mangled jaw. This proves that the combination of the formless style and Gi Hun is a failure, as Oma Tokita had successfully merged the Nico style with the possessing spirit by being able to control its power output. However, will the Gaoh style be the perfect match with the possessing spirit? Kanoh Agito is now more powerful than ever and has proven Kuroki Gensai wrong about his past weaknesses. Lu Xian showed Agito an armband with the word rune and the number 187. If we stick to this number alone, this means that there were 187 human goo rituals that took place, and the worm has an expendable army of 185 formless style users at their disposal. Now, what if there were more? Comment your thoughts below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And to all of you who supported my channel, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.